Mabuhay po kayong lahat. Before we go into the next session, please take a look at the question slips that are inside your kits. If you have a question, write down your questions and give the slips to your waiters. We will try to answer the questions during the Q&A sessions after each plenary. For session 3, we get a scoop on the results of a nationwide survey on how the business community, that's basically you guys, how this community perceives the extent of corruption in government. So how corrupt are we? We have 4 speakers in this session. First to speak is a familiar face, Guillermo, private sector co-chairman of the National Competitiveness Council. As you heard in last week's news, the Philippines jumped 10 points up to rank 65 in the World Economic Forum's World Competitiveness Survey. Bill played a big role in making that happen. Bill, you want to come on up? Will you put chairs here? Our chairs are coming up, so you're coming up with the chairs. I know. Along with Bill, our second speaker is another Bill. So we have Bill squared for our next panel. Australian Ambassador to the Philippines, Bill Twaddell. Australian Bill will explain the reason why AusAid, an Australian funder, supported this anti-corruption survey. And your chairs are finally coming up. Bill Luce and Bill Twaddell, Mr. Ambassador. He prefers to be called Bill too. Our third speaker, Steve Rude, another familiar face. He'll also deliver the same message. Steve is the country director of the Asia Foundation, another generous funder of the survey. The main speaker for this session is Dr. Mahar Mangahas, president of the Social Weather Stations. Dr. Mangahas has been doing surveys for a long time, 27 years, since he co-founded and headed SWS in 1985. SWS is the Philippines' leading institute in the quality of life monitoring, opinion polling, and social survey archiving. Let me turn this over to Bill Luce. Let me turn this over to you now.
Thank you, Maria. Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of the various business associations present, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Surveys as snapshots. Surveys serve as snapshots. They capture a picture of our sentiment, our opinion, our experience, our behavior, and our perception over a period of time. Over the last 12 years, starting in the year 2000, we have taken 9 such snapshots of how businessmen perceive and experience corruption and government services at the local level. This year, we took the 10th snapshot. The presentation you're about to hear reveals a lot about ourselves as a business community and as a nation. I recall very clearly, as if it was yesterday, why we embarked on these surveys more than a decade ago. At that time, there was extensive discussion on the Makati Business Club board about our concern that corruption would become so embedded in our daily lives that it would be seen as a normal way of doing business. Our ultimate fear was that corruption would lead to business success, while those who chose to remain honest in their business practice would be labeled the foolish ones. From that initial discussion with the Asia Foundation, we helped organize the Transparent Accountable Governance Project, or TAG, with the Asia Foundation, NAMFREL, the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, and the Bishops Businessmen's Conference. One of the activities of the TAG project was the annual survey of enterprises, which started in Manila and eventually spread to Batangas, Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, Iligan, and Davao. Today, the survey now includes Angeles and Iloilo as well, 900 businesses in all. The TAG project evolved into the Coalition Against Corruption, a predecessor of today's Integrity Initiative campaign. Today's survey presentation marks the return of the Enterprise Survey after a 2-year break. It shows how much and how little has changed over the course of the 10 snapshots. To be sure, government's performance and sincerity has changed for the better, especially under this new administration. And yet, we still see and experience corruption all around us. While many companies have put in place countermeasures, many also still do not report corruption when they see it, for fear of reprisal or inaction by the government. In all of this, majority of businessmen, and indeed the general public, feel that the government can be run without corruption. Running a government on the basis of good governance has become one of our early core thrusts to building up national competitiveness. Our thesis is that transparency leads to competitiveness because it levels the playing field. In yesterday's mid-year economic briefing by the Bangko Sentral governor and economic managers, the theme of the meeting was good governance is good economics. The data certainly bear that out. Stronger counter-corruption and good governance measures have contributed in part to higher competitiveness rankings and economic growth. In this year's global competitiveness rankings by the World Economic Forum, the country's strongest driver in competitiveness was in the area of institutions and governance, which jumped by 23 countries. Because we started from such a low base, we see much room for improvement in this area. This is why surveys such as this are so important. They help us identify and raise awareness about the problems in governance and corruption. At the same time, they also help raise the demand for good governance from citizens, because we can compare agencies and cities' performance over time and against each other. They help build public expectation, which government agencies must meet. Finally, these surveys provide us simple diagnostic tools from which programs can be designed to build up the capacity of government agencies and institutions to act. It is my hope that we can continue these surveys annually and improve them so that they become part of the data set for evaluating government agency performance. Surveys such as this can provide a measure of customer satisfaction for a wide range of government services. This year's edition of the Enterprise Survey was made possible through the support of AusAid, the Asia Foundation, Integrity Initiative, and the National Competitiveness Council. Aside from today's presentation, there will be a detailed briefing tomorrow for a broader audience of NGOs and media as well, from other sectors. The survey's findings will also be presented in Iloilo, Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, and Davao in the next few weeks. I hope we can count on your support to continue the survey annually so that we can all set targets and measure our progress against corruption. Thank you.
Ambassador Todel.
Thank you very much, Maria. Chairman of Integrity Initiative, Ramon Del Rosario Jr., members of the Diplomatic Corps, Your Excellencies, partners from government, friends from business, civil society and the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, first of all, for